Live now. All right. Let some people roll in. Ooh, goodness. Already getting busy in here. We'll let, if you're rolling in live, we'll let everybody get in here for a few minutes before we kind of get rolling. As always, we talk football, basketball. We'll answer any question you put in the chat. I want score predictions for football. I want all that stuff. We'll toss those up as well. A lot to talk about. Football, big game. Basketball, Maui. Invitational starts on Monday, so we can go either way. We can go Monday. We can go basketball or football. We can go any way you want. Let people roll in here live at session in downtown Auburn. It's already crowded, man. It's that typical Friday before a home game. A little bit chilly, but people are already getting out downtown and doing their thing. So if you're downtown, come by 4 to 7. They do happy hour here on Magnolia Avenue. Session Cocktail right next to Taco Mama, right across the street from Hamilton's on the corner, obviously. But come by, get a drink, hang out. If you're doing dinner here tonight, come by before or after. A great spot to come by before or after dinner. And then, of course, tomorrow, come by. I think they open probably in the afternoon sometime, and then it's a great spot after the game. Pop by and have a drink if you can. Session Cocktail, downtown Auburn, right here on Magnolia Avenue. Lot to talk about football and basketball. Shoot your questions in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can as Auburn prepares for Texas A&M. Saturday, 6:30 ESPN. Texas A&M, of course, ranked 15th in the country. I predicted Auburn. I picked Auburn. I wouldn't say I predicted Auburn. I don't know that there was a lot of analytical thought that went into picking Auburn. I would say it was a lot of vibes, and just thinking, like a law of averages, right? And even if they won, I don't even think that would be the average because they've lost so many close games. They would need a few to go their way, but it just feels like maybe they can get over the hump. But I don't know. When you get this late in the season, maybe you are what you are, and maybe if you're going to get over the hump and you're going to upset somebody, maybe that happens in October. Maybe it doesn't happen in November. If you get to November 23rd, maybe you just kind of are who you are. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think A&M's coming off. They didn't play well against South Carolina. They got whipped, and they had a non-conference game. So it's been a few weeks since A&M. It's not like they're coming in here just rolling necessarily. And so obviously Auburn had a little bit of confidence last week beating ULM. We'll see if they can translate the game plan and just make a few plays and win this thing, man. Defense is playing well enough that I think they've got an opportunity to do it. So we'll see. And then, of course, we're getting ready for basketball. Maui Invitational. The team traveled to Maui on Thursday. They landed on Friday. They landed on Thursday evening. They're going through practices and sort of team bonding, building stuff, canoeing and snorkeling. They'll do all that kind of fun stuff for the next 3 days. And then, of course, get going on Monday. They'll play Iowa State Monday night. I think it's at 8. And then if they win, they play at 10 on Tuesday night. If they lose Monday, they play at like 3:30 on Tuesday. And then Wednesday is completely up in the air on who they'll play. So if they can get by Iowa State somehow, some way, likely to play North Carolina, assuming North Carolina beats Dayton. That's where you get into playing number 5 Iowa State, maybe number 10 UNC, and then you would think the other side of the brackets, UConn, Memphis, Michigan State, Colorado. Funny how UConn's one ranked team among 4, and somehow the other side's got 3 top 10s. I think they could have split that up a little bit better, maybe put one of the ranked teams on the other side, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it's going to be I think it's a great opportunity for Auburn anyway. For basketball-wise, like a lot of time together, a lot of team-building stuff. It should be fun for them tomorrow, and we get to play some good teams in the basketball side. All right, let's get rolling with questions. Get them in here. We'll go through everything. I want to hear predictions. I want to hear thoughts. You can ask me anything you got, football, basketball. We'll talk about everything. NH3425 predictions for tomorrow. Auburn 27, A&M 20. I think Jordan Hare Jesus shows up and gives the offense a spark. We play lights out. Auburn is 3-0 in night games. I think we get second in Maui. All right, let's talk football first. 27-20. Yeah, so that'd be what, 47. That's right at the over-under. 46.5, 45. So you're kind of right on the number there. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. That would be, if Auburn puts up 27, A&M's defense is good. They're good. They're sound. So if Auburn gets to 27, I'd be thoroughly impressed. That's probably 0 turnovers. I don't really see how they could turn the ball over at all and get to that number. So I'm thinking that's no turnovers. And certainly some big plays. I mean, 27 is cooking. Unless the defense forces some turnovers. But let's just assume the defense just plays well but doesn't give a turnover. I mean, you're cooking on offense. You get to 27 against Texas A&M. I think look, we talked about it on the podcast. Jeffrey has A&M winning 17-13. Cole had A&M winning 28-10, which I get that A&M's top 15, but the spread's 2.5. And Auburn's not been, other than Georgia, and even that, Georgia, that score sort of looks like a blowout, but I wouldn't consider that game a blowout. I mean, if you look at the stat lines in that game, Georgia-Auburn, very close, very competitive, actually. So Auburn's been in everything they've played. So 28-10 at home would be thoroughly disappointing. Thoroughly disappointing. I don't care if Texas A&M's 15 or 5. That'd be thoroughly disappointing. But we talked about it on the show. I could potentially see that happening. Here's sort of a scenario maybe where I see 28-10 happening. A&M is up, 17-10 or 20-10 in the fourth quarter, and Auburn feels like the game's slipping away, and I could see A&M tack on a late touchdown, or it's 21-10 and they tack on a late touchdown to go up 28-10. I could see that. If it's the other way, if that game's 28-3 in the fourth quarter and A&M's just cruising and Auburn tacks on some kind of late touchdown, that would be embarrassing. So I could see Auburn hanging in there, and it's 21-10, and they haven't necessarily played great, but they're still sort of hanging around, and then they feel it slipping a little bit, and A&M puts together like a late 6-minute drive and scores in 28-10. But I just really think it's close. I think going back to last Sunday, I felt from last Sunday that I think it's going to be a close game, and it's all vibes. It's all vibes. I mean, Auburn is kind of who they are this year in terms of being an inconsistent team. We know that. Brian, I think what'd you have, Brian? 21-13 Auburn? Yeah. 21-13 Auburn. That'd be pretty impressive. That freshman for A&M's done 2 awful picks the last 2 games. Yeah. I mean, look, that's maybe an underrated part of what this game could be is Marcel Reed's phenomenal athlete. And you think back to LSU, where I think LSU jumped out early in that game, and then A&M just had an onslaught. And that quarterback was really, I think, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. But I think the other side of that is he's a good runner. He's not a great passer. The other side of that is Auburn has faced multiple dual-threat quarterbacks this year. They should be very well-versed in what to do against Marcel Reed and how they need to play and how they need to prepare. If you want to spy DeMarcus Riddick, he's been there, done that. He's already done it against Oklahoma. He's going to feel comfortable doing that. You did a little bit against Diego Pavia. So if you want to deploy that spying system, you've already done it. So there should be some comfort and some confidence in being able to execute it. So I think they've got a chance to corral him a little bit. James says, do you think Riddick is as ready as I do to really break out and prove he's the future Auburn? Yeah, I think he's doing it now. I mean, I think he's like every game he's flashing. He just continues. His athletic ability is crazy. His ability to go sideline to sideline is phenomenal. So it's like when you have that kind of athletic ability, all you got to do then is just figure out the defense. Be able to play physical. Like that's probably the next step for DeMarcus is becoming that linebacker that can play physical at the line and stuff the run and just sort of be that all-around guy, not just a dude who can run sideline to sideline and chase down a quarterback. Can you can you take on a blocker, smash him, make plays in the back, just sort of being that all-around dude. But, yeah, I mean, he's got everything it takes. But, yeah, by the way, the second pick in the person who said second in Maui, that'd be impressive. I mean, that means you're playing in the championship, right? That means you go 2-0 and then you maybe lose to UConn. Bruce said if they could win a couple, his word was, quote, a couple. They would love to win 3 in 3 days. That's their goal. But if they went 2-1, he probably walks. So if you're 2-1 and you walk away from Houston and Maui 3-1 in those games going into Duke, you're probably really happy. Party says, how important is a win for Auburn tomorrow night? Man, listen, I wrote about it yesterday at auburnlive.com. Go subscribe in our predictions and game notes. And I said, look, if Auburn wins this game, they're still only going to be 5-6. It doesn't make them bowl eligible. It's not for a championship, but Auburn hasn't won a ranked game since 2021 against Ole Miss. And really even going beyond that, they haven't won a meaningful game since the Iron Bowl 2019. That's just reality. I mean, Ole Miss in 21, they were ranked, but that was middle of the year, October. That win catapulted Auburn to like 12 or so, like catapulted them up the rankings. But it was a mid-season game. The 2019 Iron Bowl is probably the last legitimate, meaningful, like you won a monster game. It's a rival. It's a team ranked a lot higher than you. It's Alabama with Nick Saban in the middle of their dynasty. That's the last meaningful game, man. It's about 5 full seasons. If they don't get this one, it'd be 5 full football seasons without what I think is a really meaningful, impactful win. And so when you think about it like that, you think about trying to hold on to a recruiting class that's currently ranked 5th in the country. They're doing everything they can to hold on to it. I think they're doing a really good job. Heck, they might build on it. But a win Saturday night to solidify, there's going to be a lot of big-time recruits there. You've been preaching the whole time to these guys, you're the answer, we're close. If you could get over the hump and show them, see, we're so close. We look like that atmosphere is going to be phenomenal. If they pull off a win, I think it would pretty much lock up what you want that class to be. Then you just try to add on maybe Naheem Alford or whoever else you want to add on to the class. But I think a win could go a long way in solidifying anybody that's even considering flirting somewhere else. But just for the program, here's the other thing. The bottom line is we're about to be 2 seasons in. And Hugh and the staff, they haven't won a big game. They've come close, but they haven't won a big game. And so just for proof of concept, it would really be nice for Hugh to be able to walk up to Hugh Freeze to be able to walk up to the podium after the game and say, "See, we are close, and our guys did it, and they hung in there, and we got over the hump. We as a program, we as coaches, we as players are capable of getting over the hump and winning a big game." They need that. They really, really need that. I mean, it's to go 2 full seasons if you're Hugh Freeze and not have anything to hang your cap on win-wise on the field and go into your 3rd season without any significant wins. It's not where you want to be. So it'd be big for recruiting. It'd be big for these seniors, but for a program and for what the staff or for even fans, I don't think fans. I wrote in that piece. I said, look, if they beat Texas A&M, that doesn't absolve Freeze or the staff or the players for losing to Arkansas or Cal or Oklahoma or losing a 4th quarter lead to Missouri. Like, beating A&M doesn't erase that stuff, but it just gives a positive jolt into a program that just needs a positive jolt. It may be as simple as that. It's a program that needs a positive jolt, period. Forget everything else in terms of big picture, long-term, what it means. They just need a positive jolt right now, and it would be meaningful right now. And I think they're going to have a great chance. But I think, like I wrote, I think the first quarter is huge. I think you've got to come out and have a good first quarter. It's going to be cold. If you come out and you're down 7-0 the first quarter and offense has done nothing, those fans are going to get antsy. They're going to sit on their hands. It's going to be cold. They're going to go, here we go again. And it could go the wrong way. I think you need a first quarter on offense and defense to show we are here. Pads popping on defense. get after it a little bit on offense, get a field goal on the board, get something on the board, and so the fans are like, okay, we're here. This team's here, and they're showing up, and this is going to be a 60-minute ball game. And I think you'll have the fans engaged the whole time. But I think that first quarter is just big to get the juices flowing. Joey says Auburn 30, Texas A&M 17. Woo. I don't know, man. That's a big margin. Auburn's going to win the Maui tournament. Okay, Joey's just all sunshine right now. What would you say is more likely, Auburn winning 30-17 or Auburn winning Maui? Which winning Maui would pretty much be beating potentially 3 top 10s in 3 days. Brian says only pick one: win at Duke in basketball or win at Bama in football. What would be more meaningful? Oh, well, depends on if the win at Bama gets you into a bowl game, I guess. If Auburn loses to Texas A&M, then beating Bama, it's a rivalry. It's beating Alabama. That means something. But if it doesn't even get you into a bowl, no, I'd go beating Bama no matter what. I mean, I'd go beating Bama simply because the basketball program is so much more established right now. So much more established that losing at Duke or winning at Duke, I mean, they already beat Houston. They're gonna be, winning at Duke would be unbelievable. Would be historic. Like, it would be so big. But the basketball program could lose that game and still be a contender for the Final Four. I mean, they're so well established that I think, given where the football program is right now, and what just one single win over Alabama on the road in Kalen DeBoer's first year, and Hugh Freeze goes in there and gets a win, that would be way more meaningful. It would be way more meaningful, I think. And it's crazy because, look, Auburn going into Cameron Indoor would be historic, man. That would be, I mean, that would be stuff of legend. Like, that's you just, if you're Auburn basketball, when's the next time you're going to go play at Duke? So that would be massive. But I would look at it like, if Auburn lost that game, you're like, you lost a game. You charge on. You still got a chance to go to the Final Four. Given where the programs are, I think the need and the desperation for a win at Alabama is greater than the need and desperation of Duke. But the fact that it's at Duke makes that a really tough call. If that were, if you ask me what's bigger, winning Maui or winning at Alabama, it's different. But I'd go beating Alabama, kind of no matter what. What was that last comment that Joey had? Yeah. I mean, yeah. We can get Duke again in the tournament. Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. The win over Duke would be historic in nature, but it wouldn't mean Auburn is any more going to make it. Auburn could lose that game or win that game, and it really won't change how you think of them going into the Final Four, like as a contender for the Final Four. Auburn could go to Duke and lose, and you could still walk away and go, winning on the road's hard in basketball. They could still go to the Final Four. Winning in football would at Alabama would just dramatically shift a lot of fans' perspective. Even if it's just one game, a lot of fans would go, okay, I'm back on board with Hugh Freeze. I'm back on board with what this program can accomplish. The seismic shift of that win would be bigger than the seismic shift of Auburn winning at Duke, if that makes sense. But I just don't want to downplay what Auburn winning at Duke would be. Like that's I don't want to downplay what the potential of that would be. It'd be unbelievable. NH3425, what you got? Plus, we haven't won at Bama in 14 years. Yeah, they had their shot in 2014. You had your shot in 2014. You scored, they scored 44 points and lost. What was it, 2010? Yeah. What's crazy is you think about how hard it is to win there. 2010 is the last time you won there. And you needed a historic, literally the largest comeback in the history of Auburn football to make that happen. You lost in 2008. You have to go back to 2006 when you just straight up beat them start to finish, really. And they weren't great that year. Auburn was the better football team. 2004, Auburn was better, all that. But yeah, it's been really ugly. Going there has been like going to Athens lately. I mean, it's pretty much you go there and you get drubbed if you're if you're Auburn. So, Eric, what you got? I know that there are more issues on offense than quarterback, such as left tackle. In play calling, do you think if we would have signed Leonard or even Kyle McCord, do you think Auburn could be 8-2 right now? Oh, man. I don't know. Leonard would have been a good fit. He's a fantastic runner, pretty good thrower. You know, that they could have that probably would have been a really good fit. That's why they tried to get him so bad. 8-2, I don't know. Because here's the thing, man, and it's like we'd have to go back and dissect the whole season. But you go back to the Cal game, for instance. Peyton Thorne, according to the stats, threw 4 interceptions. But we all know, everybody that's watched that game and everybody that looked at the film, 3 of those were not on him. So if somebody else is throwing the ball and a receiver runs the wrong route, if somebody else is throwing the ball and Cam Coleman's hurt and nobody tells him and he can't fight for the ball, if somebody else is throwing the ball and it goes through Cam's hands, whose fault is that? I mean, so I don't know. I mean, some of those games, Peyton against Oklahoma played great, and then he made the one mistake that was just really good play by Oklahoma to bait him into a play. So I don't know. 8-2. I don't know. I feel like if they were more dynamic on offense, they don't lose to Missouri. That's a game they let slip their fingers, should have won. Probably don't lose to Vanderbilt if you're more dynamic. I don't know about 8-2, but your record's probably a little better if you got Riley Leonard. I think he just brings a little bit more to the table as a running threat to get short yardage stuff, and then he's obviously got a big arm. But there's a lot of issues, man. I know people like to hate on Peyton Thorne, and I really hate it because I just don't think anybody – he doesn't deserve it. He's a team captain, and I just think some of the vitriol he doesn't deserve. But there's just a lot of other issues execution-wise on offense. There has been all year. We'll see how they play Saturday. But it's just if it's not one thing, it's another thing on offense. And that's not the quarterback. The left tackle missing a block is not the quarterback. The receiver running the wrong route is not the quarterback. Some of the weird play calling is not the quarterback. So anyway, it's just kind of, if it's not one thing, it's another thing. So I wouldn't say 8-2, but it's hard to play that game. In 8-34-24. What do you know about Osan Kruma's visit? Is this a big push we're making for him? Yeah, I don't know. I'd get on the board and ask Jeffrey and Cole. Obviously, I leave recruiting and stuff up to them. So I would get on there and ask them, Colby, if we beat A&M, what has changed since Arkansas and Oklahoma games? Play calling, play with them. Okay, that's a good question. If Auburn beats A&M, what's the headline Sunday morning? If Auburn beats A&M, what are we talking about as the reason why? I would say, you probably hit on. I would probably say a little bit of both of those things. I think if they beat A&M, it's going to be finally a more complete understanding offensively about what you can do and what you can't do and what works. I think that'll be a lot of the story if they do beat A&M, is looking back and going, Hugh Freeze, Ken Austin, Derek Nix, whatever they designed and the plays called during the game was the best combination of play calls to fit the personnel. And then we'll also be looking and going, Cam Coleman's gotten better. He's better on November 23rd than he was in September. And Malcolm Simmons is better on November 23rd than he was in September. He's more reliable. I think it'd be a combination of that. I think it'll be a combination of, if they do win, a better understanding offensively of, okay, now I think we know how to get the absolute most out of these guys, and the personnel finally gaining a little bit of confidence, maybe off of ULM, of, hey, we can do this consistently. It's going to be some kind of combination of it. But I still think the number one reason will be the offensive line. I think it's going to be O-line. I think Texas A&M's got some real studs along the defensive line. If Auburn's O-line doesn't protect, this game's over. You can talk about Peyton Thorne. It won't matter. If they don't give him time, it won't matter. It's over. If he's got some time, I think that he'll make some plays. I think Peyton will make some plays in the game. Now, if he doesn't, it's on him. If you go look and the O-line gives him a little bit of time and he doesn't make the throw or he throws in a cover, then it's on him. But, that O-line is just going to be challenged in a big, big way. And, they've given up a decent amount of sacks this year. Peyton's been under pressure a decent amount. And I just think, and look, you got to run the football too. This cannot be all on Peyton Thorne and the receivers. So you better run the football a little bit or you can forget about it too. So I just think that the ability for Auburn's offensive line to come out and get after it is probably the number one thing you better look for. Early in the game, look for, are they getting any push? How are they handling blitzes or stunts? If that's a little rocky in the beginning, I think you're in for a long night, no matter how good Auburn's defense plays. Auburn's defense could go out there and hold them to 14, 17 points. But if that O-line doesn't play well, they're not breaking 10, and it doesn't matter anymore. Have you heard anything new about Derek Nixon's Southern Miss job? No. I haven't heard anything new there. I think Pete Nakos from On 3 mentioned he was a candidate there. That'll be an interesting thing to see offseason, sort of how Freeze kind of dissects what went right, what went wrong with the offense this year. I tell you what, it could be a good indicator of what he thinks about what happened this year on what he does. In other words, if he says, I trust Derek Nix, I'm the play caller, Derek Nix, I trust him, then it's pretty much just pointing the finger straight at personnel. If he does make a change, then I think it acknowledges at least some of, okay, yes, I'd like to continue to upgrade our personnel, but if there's a coaching change in there, then at least acknowledges a little bit of, we need to make a slight change. I don't know if he will, though. I mean, Kenan Austin and Derek Nix are two guys that have been with him, that he's coached with for a long time, that he's friends with, that I think he thinks are loyal people. And so I don't think those will be easy decisions. I mean, especially if you're Freeze. Look, if you're Hugh Freeze and you took back over play calling, which he did, he says Ken Austin does third and longs, and he and Derek Nix sort of combine. That's fine. Hugh Freeze is the primary play caller. If you take that back over, and then you also made the decision after you missed on Riley Leonard to pretty much just stick with Peyton, if you made those two decisions, if you're Hugh Freeze, and then the offense doesn't go well this year, which it hasn't in terms of scoring points, it'd be pretty rough to then turn around after the season and fire Derek Nix or Ken Austin. They didn't make you take back over play call. And ultimately, you were the one that stuck with the quarterback situation, and you didn't want to go get anybody else after Riley Leonard. So it's like it's hard to fire a guy and pin that on somebody else when two of the main decisions that impacted this year were yours if you're Hugh Freeze. So that'll be interesting. I mean, look, last week Hugh Freeze made the comment about the receivers not being as developed as he'd like. That's not great. I think Marcus Davis is a really good recruiter, but you don't want to hear in November that your receiver room is not where they need to be. I know you got some young guys in there, but, so I don't know if a change will be made there, but certainly that comment kind of raises your eyebrows. Colby says, would you consider Valdo's season a letdown? I mean, yeah. Just because, I don't know what your expectations were for him. Let's see what Rivaldo did. Hold on. Let's see if we can find Rivaldo's stats for last year. I want to see how far. I haven't even really looked at where Rivaldo is. So last year, obviously, he led the team. 38 catches, 394 and 6. 38, 394 and 6. This year, he's sitting at 26, 297 and 2. So he's having he'll finish with, 7 to 8 less catches. He'll finish with 75-ish, 50 to 70 less yards. And he'll finish with 3-4 less touchdowns. So if you were just looking at it from a stat perspective, I wouldn't necessarily say let down, because I've never been a big proponent of Rivaldo Fairweather. I saw a lot of people preseason wondering why he wasn't on more watch lists, preseason All-SEC. And I'm like, yeah, I know that he had a pretty good year last year. Like he set some Auburn records, 6 touchdowns. But there's a lot of stuff he didn't do well, and he also dropped a lot of passes last year. So I just thought he made some. I thought some of his production last year was due to Auburn just not having a lot of weapons. And what you saw this year is a few more weapons. His numbers go down. I think he's been a really subpar blocker. He's not been reliable as a blocker this year. So yes, this season's been a letdown if you're Rivaldo Ferro. But my expectations weren't as high as a lot of other people's. Joey says, last question for me, how do we win tomorrow? Do we need to run the ball more, throw the ball more? Well, in terms of the 100-yard rusher for 100-yard rushing for Jarquez, we've talked about it a little bit. Every time somebody's rushed for 100 yards under Hugh Freeze the last 2 seasons, Auburn's won. So if Auburn gets a 100-yard rusher in the last 2 seasons under Freeze, they win. So that would be a pretty good benchmark. The other benchmarks are the 20-point plateau. So if Auburn allows 20 or more points under Hugh Freeze, they're 0-12. 0-12 when they give up 20 or more. When they score 20 or more, they're 9-4. When they score 20 or less, they're 1-9. So it's pretty much that 20-point. If they can get to 20 and hold A&M under 20, like that's sort of the number. If they've gotten to 20, pretty good chance they win. If they don't, they lose. And if they give up more than 20, they literally are 0-12. How does that happen? Listen, when you play a team the caliber of A&M, it's about making the critical plays. It's not really going to be about they need to play ground and pound, or like it's going to be tough sledding to some degree against a team that has as good of a defense as Texas A&M does. And so, like, it's going to be about, like, Auburn will have some opportunities to make plays. It's about making the play at the most opportune time. That's what big games are about. Like, Auburn will have opportunities to do some good things. This is going to be about Auburn's at the 50 and it's 3rd and 4. You have to convert. You have to convert a 3rd and 4 when you're at midfield and you've got an opportunity to get points on the board. Better not miss field goals if you get down there. Ian Vacone could end up being an unsung hero if you can kick a couple field goals. You might not get a touchdown every time, but give me a kicker that can make 2 or 3 field goals and keep you in the game, keep you close. That if you're pinned deep, can you just get a first down? Could you get maybe a first down or 2 if you're pinned deep just to get you out of the hole and then let Oscar Chatton flip field position? Like that's the stuff that wins you big games. Not necessarily about, yes, the offensive line needs to play well, but you got to make those plays at the critical times, which is something they just haven't done consistently, which is why if you just asked me based on the evidence, I wouldn't pick Auburn. No way. And I even wrote that. I said, listen, there's not a good evidence to pick Auburn. There's not a good reason to pick Auburn. Like, I couldn't back that up statistically, really. Although A&M in conference, their defense hasn't been a juggernaut. I think Auburn's defense in league play has been better than A&M's. But over a game, there's no reason to really say that Auburn over 60 minutes is going to beat a team the caliber of Texas A&M, other than night game, have something good happen to you early, and just hope that kind of the law of averages work out where you've had this frustrating season of a bunch of stuff go wrong. And is it one of those things where this is the night that a pretty good that a decent football team, I think Auburn's decent. They're not great. I don't even know if they're good. They're like a tad bit above average, probably. But is this the night where a few more things go right and they actually get a win? That's what you're hoping happens. Hardy says, where would you rank Janai Broome all time for Auburn? Oh, man. Oh, gosh. These questions are crazy because, what are we talking about? Are we talking about there have been some phenomenal athletes. Like Janai Broome is a far more productive player than Chris Porter, but Chris Porter was electric. So, like, if you're just saying, who would you take, Janai Broome or Chris Porter? So, just as an example, But if you're talking about legacy, impact on the program, production, man, he's top 10 for sure. I don't know if I can put him top 5. I mean, you'd have to go through like Chuck Person and Charles Barkley, and it's somebody like Bryce Brown and Jared Harper are kind of a duo because they both came in and played those 3 years and finally led Auburn to the Final Four, or Jabari Smith. Like there have been some great players that have also taken Auburn to new heights. Janai has been a part of a ton of production and a ton of stats and a ton of wins. But if Auburn, let's say Auburn makes the tournament and loses in the round of 32, well, then Janai Broome's legacy is losing in the second round, losing in the first round, losing in the second round with some pretty good teams. And so I think it depends. If he can get this team to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, that pushes him up the list. But I think you got to put Janai probably top 10 all time at Auburn. I don't think you could go top 5. I mean, just because off the top of my head, I could probably name some more impactful players that were both good and carried on a legacy and led Auburn to some new heights and things like that. But Troy says, any chance they blow it up on the offensive side after the season? What we've watched this past 2 years is not even close to cutting it. I mean, no. I mean, I don't really know what you mean by blowing it up, but the bottom line is Hugh Freeze has an offense that he believes in. So like, that's not changing. If Hugh Freeze is there, they're going to run some type of RPO. And I think what we learned last year was when Hugh Freeze turned the offense over to Philip Montgomery completely, he couldn't interject when he needed to interject. Staff. Oh, Zach saying staff. Yeah, you're probably right. He did probably know staff. I don't know about blow it up. It would. I mean, it does feel like as much of this. There's been a lot of struggles this year. It certainly feels like a change or two will be made, right? It like just if you're Hugh Freeze and you're going, okay, this didn't really go well. I'm not blaming necessarily any one person, but it's hard to just take the same, everything the same and just carry it into next year unless behind the scenes Hugh Freeze is just 1,000% sold on its personnel. And he's never going to, maybe he's not going to say that publicly. He's going to say, well, we got to coach better and they got to play better. But if behind the scenes he's going, there's nothing wrong with our preparation. There's nothing wrong with our schemes. There's nothing wrong with the play calling. We need better players. Like if he just firmly believes that, then he could keep the staff the same and just say, give me better players. But I know that to not be true. Like they have not prepared well all the time. That's translated on Saturdays with miscommunications and execution errors and turnovers. And so like you can't really say the whole thing is going well. So I would think there probably is a change or two. If nothing else, just so you could go tell boosters you're hey, I'm doing things to try to make it better. If you just keep everything the same, I would imagine there's going to be some people that give money go, hey, we're just going to keep everybody the same. We're not going to change a thing. It might not go over well. And who knows? I don't know what kind of, I don't know if Hugh's the kind of person that would, hey, I need to let you go. And it'll sort of look like that person's the scapegoat. Whether it doesn't matter what Hugh Freeze says in a statement or whatever he says, if somebody gets let go, they're going to look like a scapegoat. If he lets Marcus Davis go, if he let Ken Austin go, if he let Derek Nix go, if he let Jacob Thornton go, I'm just naming the offensive coaches. That coach is going to automatically look like a scapegoat. All the fingers are going to go, so Hugh thought it was an offensive line problem. Oh, Hugh thought it was a receiver's problem. And so unless they really deserve it, I'm not sure if he'll do it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he does, and I think we can determine something off of what he does. Simply, how concerned are you with Perry Thompson in the portal, seeing some chatter on the board? Even Cole said something about it on Ask Pink. Well, listen, I mean, in this day and age, you're crazy to not wonder about those things. And I think it's perfectly legitimate. Like, it's not paranoia on your part to go, I wonder if Perry might leave. Perry might leave. Like, sometimes there's stuff in recruiting or team that happens. It's like, dude, it's kind of unfounded. But given what we know about NIL, given we know about like how the portal works, Perry's a really talented athlete that has not probably had the playing time or the season he thought he might. Not that I don't think we thought he was going to come in and set the world on fire. That was Cam. But Perry hasn't played a lot, so I would say a little bit of concern. You got to be crazy if you don't have a little bit. He's too big of a player, too good of an athlete. There's plenty of programs, good programs, that would love to have a player the caliber of Perry Thompson on their roster. Now, if you're Perry, you have to go, okay, but is it them or me? Like, should I have played? I mean, to me, if you're Perry, did you have a full grasp of the entire playbook? Well, if you didn't, then why would going somewhere else fix anything? Now, if there's some kind of frustration, if you were promised something and you didn't get it or whatever, then that's that. But to me, if you're Perry, you're going, man, listen, Keandre Lambert-Smith's leaving and Camden Brown's leaving, and next year, if I refine my skills and I get in the playbook, it's going to be me, Cam, and Malcolm. There's no reason. They could go in the portal and get somebody, but if you're Perry Thompson, I don't know why you'd go anywhere. If he's telling you, I'm going to go get a portal quarterback, I've got Deuce Knight coming in, but like, dude, it's going to be, you go get in the playbook, go refine your skills, and it's going to be, it very easily can be you and Cam on the outside, Malcolm in the slot, and y'all roll with it. I mean, I don't know. If you're Perry, I don't know what another scenario would be that's potentially better. Like, you're not promised anything anywhere you go. So if he leaves, he's just taking it back, because there's absolutely nothing guaranteed that's going to be some better situation. To me, if he leaves, he's just going, he's taking advantage of a market where some other team is a little bit more desperate and will give him a little bit more money, and he just takes the back. But he ends up at a place where the situation's not necessarily any better. He's got a great shot here. He's got a great chance here. So I don't know. That's kind of the way I look at it. Colby, outside of Broome, who gets the ball in March to win a game? That's a tough one. I love Miles Kelly. I know that he hasn't quite, outside of the Vermont game, he hasn't quite caught fire, but Miles does a ton of good things, and Miles can create off the dribble too. You haven't seen that in his game yet because Auburn does have a lot of weapons, but like Miles has got the ability to get the ball, drive baseline, pull up and take a shot, or drive to the elbow and pull up. Like, Miles has got that ability if you gave him the ball and just space it out. Denver's got that a little bit. Look, by the end of the year, Tahad could certainly be an option. He absolutely has got the capability and the quickness to take a couple dribbles and pull up or get to the basket and dish it. Like, Tahad, by March, Tahad could be a really dangerous player in terms of, hey, 30 seconds left. He could get his own shot. He can get to the rim. His vision's good. He could dish it. He could put a ball off the glass and Janai could get a rebound. So I think Todd would be a guy by the end of the year you'd love to have the ball in his hands one way or another. But I would trust Miles to. Chad's better kind of off the ball. Like, when Chad gets the dribbling, it doesn't always go well. So I wouldn't necessarily say he fits kind of what you're saying, although he can make a big shot. But I wouldn't. When I think about this question, I think about give him the ball, spread out, isolate, and you can drive, you can shoot, you can kick. We're trusting you with the ball. I tend to go Denver a little bit, but by the end of the year, I'd sort of lean to Todd or Miles in terms of initial ball handling, and then maybe you get the ball to Janai down low for sure. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think Auburn's got weapons, and the good thing about this Auburn team basketball, I think there's more areas for them to get better. Like, J.P. Pegues is a player that is he going to be exactly what we thought he was going to be coming out of Furman? Probably not. But I think that one of the big things holding him back is his confidence in his ability. Like, he does lack a little quickness, but I think there's also some confidence issues with JP where the more he plays, play in Maui, play at Duke, play Purdue, play Ohio State, play in the SEC. I think McGee's has played enough basketball that he'll start to get a little bit more used to the speed of this game and the caliber of play, and I think he will get better. Now, he might just stay the same, and it might just be like he just doesn't have it. But I think there's opportunities for JP to get acclimated a little bit to the game and maybe get a little bit better. We'll see. But Miles is a guy that could probably get a little bit better. He's still a player that's getting better. Tahad obviously could get better. It's like I think there's opportunities for guys to get better. Chad probably is who he is. Janai is who he is. Shaney, room to get better. Like I think there's more room. There's some guys that could get better as the season goes on versus looking at them now and going, they pretty much are who they are. They're just some super veteran team that this is who they are. Like I think this team could be better in March depending on how things develop. But we'll see. Session is popping, by the way. We are live here at Session Cocktail. If you're around downtown Auburn, come by, have a drink. 4 to 7 happy hour. We're set up right in the front corner in the couches looking into the bar. We've got some couch seating and some chairs, kind of some small tables left. There's a booth open. So there's some opportunities to get in here and have a drink before or after dinner and enjoy a happy hour. But yeah, they're busy in here at the moment. So come check them out. We love Session. Love the people here and appreciate them being a part of what we do at Auburn Live. What you got? Is McPherson getting better? I cannot recall where Auburn has struggled kicking field goals. On McPherson, I don't have a good answer for you. I don't think he's getting better. I mean, he came back against Kentucky, but then all of a sudden he's not available again. I think that he's still struggling a little bit with whatever he's going on, and I think he's still struggling with gaining weight and maintaining weight. And so I doubt you'll see him this year. I think he's probably done this year, and then I don't know what his future holds right now. Really, seriously, I don't. I'm not sure. I think if McPherson ever kicks again, is up in the air. But we'll see. But you're right about Auburn struggling kicking. Auburn's been very blessed to have a bunch of years of good field goal kickers. I mean, you go back. I wrote about it when they got Towns Magoo committed. You could go all the way back. You can go 20 years, and you can go back to Philip Yost, into John Vaughn, who out there a couple games, but John Vaughn was a really good kicker. Into who was the kicker? And let's see, they had Parkey. So Vaughn Byram. I'm sorry, Vaughn Byram, Parkey, and then of course Daniel Carlson and Anders Carlson, and then you get Alex McPherson, who was phenomenal last year. Towns Magoo's struggling, but was highly ranked. But like Auburn's been pretty blessed to have. It's been a lot of years where you really didn't have to worry about Auburn kicking or punting. It seems like about every year they've got a good kicker and a good punter, and that's really kind of off the table. Very few years you're like, who's going to punt? Or who's going to kick? Or that's a big weak spot. It really didn't happen much. So you're right about that. Larry says, my question, how's the energy been this week in practice? Good. I'm good. I talked to somebody that would know, and they said they had a good week of practice. I mean, I think the ULM win gave them a little bit I think that was a good one. ULM's not a terrible team. They're not great, but they're not terrible. Like, that's not a complete cupcake. And Auburn thoroughly dominated that game. Thoroughly dominated. I think that felt good for that team. I think that was good. I think they're excited about playing a night game. It's a different feel. They got all day to prepare. There'll be a little bit of energy like that. So I think it was a good week of practice. With this team, it's just all about carrying it over. It's just about carrying it over to Saturday. Can they do it? Can they make a few plays when it matters most? I don't know. I really don't know. We'll hang out here for a few more minutes here live at Session. Talk a little football, basketball. I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving, by the way. So we'll cover football Saturday night. And then I think Cole's going out of town next week. I'm going out of town. Jeffrey probably will be sort of around to travel, but next week's going to be a little bit crazy. I'll be with my family for Thanksgiving, and we'll all try to cover next week the best we can. But we got basketball games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Of course, freeze on Monday. Get ready for the Iron Bowl. Colby says, has Chaney missed one of those turnaround shots near the basket here? He looks like a different player. Absolutely. With Chaney, it's all about confidence. I mean, part of it is he's developed. Part of it is Chaney is simply becoming a better player. But a big part of what Chaney's doing right now is just he's confident. There's no Jalen Williams. So for Chaney, it's like, I'm the man. He's getting more minutes, and it's translating. And he's got a good set of skills. Like Chaney, if you're on, I don't know if you could tell on TV, if you've been to a game, even if you've been to a game, you probably need to be up close. But Chaney is a specimen. Like Chaney's lower body, his calves, his legs, his shoulder, like Chaney is strong. That dude's a strong, well-built guy. And you toss in his ability to sort of take a turnaround jumper. He can spot up and shoot a three. Then you toss in his ability to finish around the rim. Like he's that guy on this team. He might be the X factor. Him and I would say Tahad. I think him and Tahad are the X factors in what this team can be, because I think that the gap between where they are now and where they could be in March is the biggest, combined with just their talent now. Like I just think if Chaney keeps getting better and Tahad grows more comfortable with his game and becomes a guy that when he gets in, he's gonna score more consistent. Those two guys continue to get better. This Auburn team is going to be really dangerous. If they sort of stay about where they are now, Auburn's good. But the better those two guys get, the more dangerous Auburn gets. And Chaney's a big part of that. He can block shots, rebound. Like Chaney by the end of the year could be a vastly underrated power forward in college basketball. Where do you think Jarquez lands in the NFL? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where he's at projection-wise. But running, of course, the NFL's changed in terms of running backs are not as valued. Like the days of drafting running backs high is pretty much done unless you have an absolute freak like Derrick Henry. I think for Jarquez, he's tough to tackle. I have to go back and look. Where did Tank get drafted? Don't Zach, if Zach's listening. I mean, I think he's similar to Tank, right? Tough to tackle, really good athlete, faster than Tank, probably better hands than Tank. But at times Jarquez is pretty good pass blocking, but he did miss some blocks every now and then. I think Jarquez is still getting better in his vision. Round 3, Tank went round 3. Yeah, so I would say Jarquez is probably around. I don't know that he's going to go as high as Tank. Like Tank had a little bit more, I think, allure with him. I think there's a little bit more with Tank than maybe how NFL views Jarquez. Plus, Jarquez has got 4 years carries under him. I mean, so I would say Jarquez is round 4 or 5. I don't think he goes 5. If I had to guess, I'd guess round 4. I think that's where he goes. But he's fumbled. Jarquez has fumbled a little bit. Like Jarquez is a good back, but there's a couple of things that I think the NFL could go, that's a little bit concerning. That I think dropping down a little bit. But if he can go run like a 4 flat or something, that would help. Going back to the Janai legacy question, hasn't he already been father in March than Chuck further? I think Chuck led Auburn to their first tournament, but I don't think they want to get. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. I mean, but Janai, they won 1 game and lost to Houston while he was at Auburn, and then of course they lost to Yale. So this is a big legacy year for somebody like Janai. But look, Janai's got an SEC tournament championship. He's got that under his belt. And you finished. What did Auburn finish last year? second or third. What did Auburn finish last year? Second or third? I don't know. But that's I think if Janai wants to be considered a top 5 player at Auburn all time, that I think they need to be in the at least the Sweet 16 this year. And then you can go. He's got all the points, all the rebounds in his career, but also at Auburn, he helped lead Auburn to an SEC tournament championship. And at that point, you could say he won at least 3 NCAA tournament games, took him to a Sweet 16, was an All-American. That's probably the thing he's got going for him most is an All-American. There haven't been many of those at all. And could he do that twice? Hell, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he's going to finish for 2 straight years. He's going to finish as maybe a top 5 most productive player in college basketball. So I think he just needs, to me, I think he needs a run to the Sweet 16. And then I think you could really make an argument to put him top 5. But if he doesn't do that, I don't know. I think he helps carry on the legacy of Auburn basketball being good. But I think in March he needs to do something. So we'll see. A couple more minutes. If there's any more questions, we will we'll get to them. If not, we'll get out of here. Auburn, Texas A&M, 6:30 Saturday night. Go to auburnlive.com. For full coverage, big recruiting weekend. Cole and Jeffrey are going to have you covered. Big recruiting weekend. A lot of important guys there. They need to shore some things up. Recruiting wise. So, Zach, we got anything else in the back? Anything else popping through? Or okay, cool. We'll just run, man. The questions were awesome. Love you guys. Go to auburnlive.com and subscribe. Go to YouTube, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. We'll see you guys on the corner to have more discussion. Appreciate Zach in the back. Live from Session Cocktail. Come check them out when you get a chance. Great place to come have a drink. We'll see you guys next time.